Hi, Kalpun Piso here. Science is the collective knowledge gathered over 2,000 years ago by the evolved, mutated primate brain, us, to ensure our survival. In this knowledge, science accelerated now in this 21st century. But there's always a drag, there's always an intellectual drag that stagnates the intellect, and that's religious beliefs with a mental illness, a psychopathy of Christianity. And it's actually a delusion created by the brain itself to appease the brain, anesthetizes from the reality of life, the idea that we will die, will end, everything will end. That's very hard to bear. God is a neurological disorder that stagnates the intellect of humanity. We must get rid of it. It's as useful as the appendix.
The human being of the future will be a lot smarter, thanks to pioneering research being conducted on how our brains work and how they can work better.
Listen to that, Christians. No God.
The brain is an extraordinary object. In fact, without question, the most complicated object that humans have thus far encountered in this universe.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to put a limit on what its capabilities might be.
Random mutations.
Professor Gary Lynch
Evolution.
is a pioneer in neuroscience research at the University of California at Irvine.
We're working on ways of enhancing the capabilities of the human brain.
That work involves not only trying to improve the brain we have, but keeping it at maximum potential throughout our lives.
Yes, and get rid of the Christian and believing God nonsense.
It begins to fail with age.
Today's human brain power peaks at the age of 20. Then it begins a steady decline.
Why? Why should this thing spend 18 years to develop, to wire itself up, to form these thousands of trillions of synapses, and then start to decay almost as soon as it was finished?
Everything we experience comes through our five senses. But Dr. Rodolfo Linas has a technology that could make your five senses obsolete.
Here are the trillions of universes within our heads in neurons creating thoughts and the thoughts of God. Our brains are like miniature universes and galaxies, trillions of neurons. And it's the universe within that we created God with. These are the universes outside our brain. This is the universe. This is the ones inside, the inner universes that we create.
Our brains are made of neurons.
There you go, Christian.
100 billion of them.
Thought is nothing more than a community of neurons talking to each other for a fraction of a second.
There you go.
Passes its message on to the next.
They create God this way.
Not bad.
Learn, Christians.
What would happen if you could accelerate that process?
With amphikynes, the jolt of electricity is larger. More neurons are going to respond to the message, and more neurons means that they'll recruit more neurons. Now you have more neurons working on a single thought, and they're a lot faster.
And believing God screws it up.
Signals across tiny gaps called synapses. Dr. Lynch can measure just how much amphikynes grease these synapses inside the brain.
We know chemicals affect the brain. This proves God doesn't exist. If He exists, things will be different. Everybody will be thinking the same way. Not so. Chemicals affected.
More voltage.
There you go.
By increasing the speed of thought, these drugs will make us more alert and improve our memory. But they'll have none of the jittery side effects of stimulants like energy drinks,
Chemicals with science, collective knowledge, mentally healthy, atheism, chemicals to actually improve the performance.
Things that are now in testing by pharmaceutical companies, potential is there to do things the brain cannot now do.
This is reality.
That opens up a new book.
Reality.
In the human story. What comes next is going to be really...
Right now, it's predicted that by the year 2040, more than 100 million people worldwide will suffer dementia.
And dementia happens in the brain. It's like religious belief, like believing in zombie Jesus or Allah or any other imaginary friends. And that's very similar to schizophrenia.
1 in every 15 adults over the age of 60.
Or religious belief,
The loss of memory will
which is
be
a form of
breakthrough in the fight
schizophrenia.
against Alzheimer's, strokes, even schizophrenia.
There you go.
Those who remain healthy,
Like believing in imaginary friends.
youthful brain will make life more enjoyable.
Life is 1,000 times more enjoyable when one has a healthy brain. In other words, lacking belief, absurd beliefs in God and imaginary friends are constantly hovering over you because you're going to be condemned to a hell, to a non-existent life after death, which is absurd. That's the reason atheists, mentally healthy people, are much happier than the retarded people that suffer from Christ-psychosis or any other type of...
Someday you might be able to see even if you're blind, hear even if you're deaf, or recover memories that you thought were lost.
A new set of technologies that might allow us to talk to the brain directly.
There you go, Christians. Learn.
We humans are visual animals. Let me draw it for you. It is something like that.
Yeah, we created God with our brains.
Let's put an eye here. Now, for most people, seeing is something to do with your eyes. The eye connects to the thalamus. But you know, it is really not so.
We have dreams.
Eyes don't see.
We don't need eyes for
It
dreams.
is the brain that sees.
That's right. The
When you
brain.
dream, you see, but you're not using your eyes.
In principle, one may be able to produce seeing by activating the brain directly.
Everything happens in the brain. When we go to bed at night, we die. We actually imagine all this, we see all these kind of fantasies in our brains, and we live them. Then, in the morning, we resurrect. We're conscious again. It all happens in the brain. We don't need eyes.
Dr. Linus plans to run wires into the part of the brain responsible for vision. The wires would stimulate specific brain cells with electrical impulses, creating images in your mind,
Images of God too,
even if your eyes are shut.
if we want to.
You can have sensations, you can have images
Yes.
as richly as you want to.
There you go,
He
Christians.
can also hotwire the parts of the brain connected to hearing or touch.
So much for
This
stupid
technology
believing
paves the
God.
way for true
Oh, it is great to be mentally healthy. In other words, an atheist. You know, we can use actually drugs, like the people that wrote the Bible and all the religious texts. They actually saw God by ingesting psychotropic substances. We can do that, and we can see God. Go inside of the universe.
Another
Go inside
mushroom
of the
rarely
universe.
causes death, but is better known for its use as a psychoactive substance.
Right, you can see God with this and write Bible.
Muscaria, the famous soma mushroom, the red mushroom with the white dots that you see associated with Santa Claus and Christmas.
Yes.
Santa Claus and
Any
Christmas.
neurologically impaired person that believes in God and the rest of imaginary friends, and they don't know how those fairy tales came to be, after reading the Bible, Quran, and the many other religious texts, ingest the mushroom and see what happens in the brain. You'll see God and many other invisible,
There's been a long history of the use of this mushroom by shamans. Amanita muscaria contains many compounds, but three notable ones are ebutanic acid, mucimol,
When the shaman ate the mushroom, his kidneys filtered the muscarine from his urine.
Their disciples would then drink the urine, and we should be free of these negative compounds, and then they would have an experience that was a lot more.
Reindeer also loved these mushrooms.
See God.
According to some legends, they may have caused Santa's reindeer to hallucinate and prance around as if they were flying.
I back up all my videos with facts provided by evidence. So there you have it, the facts. God doesn't exist outside the brain. It's a product of actually a retarded, dysfunctional, or sick brain. This is great for us, mentally healthy, in other words, atheist people with healthy brains. We can distinguish between fantasy and reality. We read not only one book, many books, and we can see reality. So it's important. People that our leaders in countries should be mentally healthy and educated people, not dysfunctional retards like people that believe in God are. Pace Dio.